So this video will be about the story of Ragon the Rabbit Dragon. And Ragon actually started out as something random on my knitting machine several years ago. I'd say 5 years ago, around when I first bought it, and I was making all sorts of random things and just putting yarn in there and winding it. And when I put this yarn in there, because of the color, I thought, well, at that time I was thinking of making a rabbit plush, and I had made a couple other plushes, but they were actually sewn. I made several sock puppets or plushes and one or two reversible plushes, and then this one for the knit plush, I wanted to make it a rabbit. And when I put the yarn, and I really like this yarn, it's really soft, and when I put it in there, because of the color, I was going to call it Poopie. I thought it would be very funny and cute to have a rabbit plush called Poopie that looked like poo. And so I used the machine to knit out the tube, and then it just sat there. I actually took it off the knitting machine, I strung some yarn on the edge, and I left it in a bag for several years until I took everything out again recently and started knitting and finishing my knitting projects. And for Ragon, I did a couple other stuffed animals first. I finished the rabbit, I finished the cat, I finished Meow Meow. Then I finished Chirps, which is the duck bird, and then I went on to work on Ragon. I was working on Ragon and Chirps at the same time. However, Chirps was finished first because I was actually going to have Chirps debut first, but right now Ragon's debuting, and Ragon's debuting in a skit with Buns, who came next. Buns was made at last minute for the Lunar New Year and Year of the Rabbit. I had not been paying attention to what was going on, and I realized last minute that Lunar New Year was on the 22nd for year 2023, and it was the Year of the Rabbit. And I wrote down a list of all these things I could do, like clay rabbits, resin stuff, like rabbit earrings, resin rabbit stuff, and I realized that the easiest thing to do would be to use the knitting machine and make a knit rabbit, because I'd already finished 3 crochet and knitting and crochet. It's a mix. I do a combination knitting and crochet. I'd already finished 3 of them, and I have resin stuff all packed up away because I hadn't touched it in a while, and I did not want to have to look through all my stuff and reorganize everything and take all that stuff out, because I don't have that much space at my place. So when I'm not working on something, it gets tucked away. And for Ragon, the filling inside of Ragon, both Ragon and Chirps, is a softer polyester fill because I couldn't find the firmer one. And it's kind of funny because the softer one is technically cheaper, I guess, because I got it at Daiso, which is the $100 yen store, or now it's a bit more expensive than that. And the other one was some random package from Walmart, and it's actually coarser and not as soft. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And at first I wasn't used to it because the plushes were so soft. Both Chirps and Ragon are very soft. Chirps, Ragon, and I don't remember what Buns. I think Buns is also soft. But then Meow Meow is kind of a more firm plush. So anyways, back to Ragon. When I was knitting it, I finally finished it. got to the ears of the rabbit, and I was thinking, I want big floppy ears. And I looked at some examples online of other people's ears, and they were these rabbits with these really soft, tiny little ears. And I was thinking, no, the rabbit has to have big, giant ears. And so I decided to knit what would look like leaves on its top of its head. And I just kept making it bigger, and then I was like, yeah, and most people had a single layer, a single piece, but I had two pieces. There's a front and a back to my ear. And I realized after making one of them that it made it thicker, and plus I stuffed it with a little bit of filling because I wanted it to be more firm. I was like, yeah, I want the ears to really pop out, so I'll make them really big, I'll make them double layered, and I'll stuff them with a little bit of filling. And they ended up really big and floppy, and when I was done, I was thinking, well, yeah, it's just a rabbit with really big ears. And then I looked at the tail end, and there was a little piece of string at the bottom where I had sealed it up, and it was this pretty blue color, and I was thinking, oh, I'll use that to make the plush tail. And I was like, no, I don't want to give this guy a plush tail. I want him to have like a snake-like tail, like a thicker tail. And so I started crocheting a tail, and I realized that this yarn does not crochet well the way it's made. It's really hard to work with, so it would be easier to just do knitting. So I ended up knitting the tail, and I made this long snake tail that's longer than the body of its body. And then I looked at it and I was thinking, it's missing something, and I was like, oh, beads, I'll add some beads to it. So I beaded the tail, and then here I am looking at this pseudo rabbit with big floppy gigantic ears, jewel eyes, and a tail. And I was thinking, it's a rabbit dragon thing. It's a Ragon. And so that's how Ragon came to be. And I had fun making it. I'm glad I made it this way because it's different. It's not a official rabbit. And when I finished Ragon, I did not know I would make another rabbit plush. So it actually works out because now I have a Ragon and I have a rabbit, like a really cute rabbit. That's the story of Ragon. I guess later on in other videos I will be talking about Meow Meow, the pink cat, Chirps the duck bird, and Buns. I have one video out for Buns. I can talk more about the Ami family later.